Okay, so this is a video game review for Red Faction 2 for the PlayStation 2, released in 2002. It's also playable on the Xbox, PC and GameCube. After seeing a highly positive video review for Red Faction 1, in my haste I bought this game and haven't been impressed. The game isn't bad, it just feels distinctly average. This isn't a case of a game getting worse with age, it just smacks of a game with little variation and not being all that to begin with. The blurb on the back of Red Faction 2's box states your objective as being to, and I quote, eliminate the corrupt dictator of the Commonwealth. So, I thought, I get to blow up old Queenie. Sweet. No doubt when the current monarch does eventually pop a glogs, God bless her, in a few hundred years, I'll get plenty of hate mail for that last remark. But in all seriousness, you have to kill a geezer called Sopot, who's apparently evil and trying to wipe out your kind. You play as Alias, that's the character's name, a sort of super soldier, which is as good an explanation for how you kick so much ass as in any other game. However, while the guns in this game are quite powerful and the engine is functional, the single player feels below par. The game is non-stop shooting, which these extended edits should be able to convey and put across. The problem with this is that it's just very boring after a while. The game is unappealing to look at, the characters uninteresting, the pathfinding isn't an easy task. I lost count of how many times I got lost in Red Faction 2. Furthermore, I didn't really get this game's USP. While I recognise the series is renowned for its ability to blow through walls, this to me isn't really a praiseworthy feature, as there are numerous times when to progress you need to blow through a piece of terrain, but the developers don't make this obvious, and you have to really have eagle-eye vision at times to notice some real subtle differences in the environments in walls that are supposed to act as hints, but it's, like I say, it's not very obvious. This was about the only time the constant shooting came to a halt, and it wasn't exactly a welcome breakup of the action. To give credit where it's due, I can say that the health system in Red Faction 2 is an interesting mix of regeneration and health pickups, which, while strange at first, manages to combine the best of both systems. The game is also incredibly dark, and is not helped by having an ugly colour palette. Game's graphics, I don't believe, have to have the greatest resolution to be appealing. They just need to have an appealing art style and colour palette. This is something that Red Faction 2 just doesn't have. On the darkness issue, even on the highest brightness setting of your TV, you might still find noticing things difficult. I barely noticed the music in the game, and the sound effects are passable, without being anything to write home about. The game isn't short either, although it does start as it means to carry on, so there's no dip in gameplay, but like I said, it feels below par to begin with. The game does autosave at each checkpoint, which is a positive, but the levels are huge, and again, this doesn't really help too much with pathfinding. To wrap up talk of the single player, it should be said that if someone described this game to me, it would sound very appealing. No puzzles, constant shooting, pretty beefy guns. The problem is that games have kind of moved on from Doom-style gameplay, where once it was enough to have games where you shot your way through levels of demons and monsters with a healthy dose of blood and guts. There are so many first-person shooters out there these days that to do the same thing, it's no longer enough to make an FPS with so little character. Red Faction 2, when compared to games like Timesplitters 2 or Future Perfect, appears incredibly soulless. Like I said, the single player is not wholly bad or terrible, but it just feels below average and incredibly dull. The multiplayer, in contrast, is above average for the time. There are a few game modes such as Deathmatch, Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, Bagman, Arena, Team Arena, and Regime, which is similar to Gladiator mode from Timesplitters. There are plenty of maps, and while none of them are great, they're mostly of a reasonable size and do the job certainly, and like I said, there's a good selection of them at least, so you should be able to find a few that you like. Multiplayer in Red Faction 2 is frantic, with tweakable options for game length and point limits, as you'd expect. However, with only 6 players in any game, and that includes human players and bots, it's hard not to see Red Faction 2 as a lesser alternative to the Timesplitters franchise. It certainly does make more of the engine than the single player mode, but it doesn't make this game a must-buy for the platform. Red Faction 2 feels like a distinctly average game. I give it a 5.2 out of 10. And that's me.